Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of July 2023. I hope you're well and happy birthday to the early Leos out there. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. The second link is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on Circle. You can get access to all of the extended content over there for no extra cost and hang out with a sensational group of people. And we've got classes running over there and all sorts of things. So if you're interested in that, you know what to do. Let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Leo. Could I have 3 cards for Leo, please? There's the first one. We have the Star in your recent past. Let's flip this around so you can see what I'm seeing. And current energy for Leo, please. The Empress. Goodness, right. That's Aquarius energy and Taurus/Libra energy, respectively. And what's coming towards Leo, please, for July? Thank you. We have the 8 of Pentacles. So no matter which way you cut it, there's a lot of work going on here. And what I really like about this, quite aside from the fact that I've just noticed that the Judgment card is at the bottom of the deck, is what we have here is a process. We have visualization, we have creation, and then we have the work that comes after it. And I get the impression, Leo, that this is a work that you are all about. This is what you have been working towards for the longest time. And it's here in addition to this Judgment card. It's actually called Awakenings in this deck, or Awakening. And I really like it because it really pushes into this idea that there is a rebirth going on of some sort. I see it. There it is. You know, this woman is actually literally sloughing off her skin, you know, and developing some sort of angelic form, right? It's an ascension of sorts. But it all started with a vision. And then, you know, through the act of creation, so we've got, you know, stuff being gestated, whether this is a version of you, whether this is circumstances that you needed to sort out, whether this was some sort of project that you had visualized and then was trying to bring into being. It seems to me that 8 of Pentacles is the work that comes after in order to sustain that. Now, as a fixed sign, what Leo does is sustain, as all the fixed signs do, right? They're the signs that govern the middle of the seasons. So you have the cardinal seasons that initiate, the cardinal elements that initiate, cardinal signs, and they point the direction, they show the way, right? And then the fixed signs pick it up and go, right, we're going to carry this right through until we get to the end, and then the mutability of it gets ready for, you know, the introduction of something new. The mutability is almost like the culmination of what has gone on in the previous season, if you want to look at it like that. Let's get some more of this in here and get some flesh on the bones of this, because this is very interesting. What I'm not sure of at this point, and we'll see when the cards come out, I would think, is whether this is the achievement of the goal or whether this is the hard work that you're going to have to put in to bring your visualization to life. But we'll see. Tell me about the Star card, please. Thank you. Ooh, we have the 7 of Swords. Star. And we have the Ace of Wands. All right. I actually feel like that mitigates the potentially negative energy of that 7 of Swords quite nicely. Tell me about the Empress, please. There's the Empress here. We have the 3 of Swords. And we have the 2 of Cups. Tell me about the 8 of Pentacles, please. Ooh, Wheel of Fortune. That's just amplified that energy quite significantly. Let's say 8 of Pentacles, please. And the 7 of Cups. Right. At the bottom of the deck, we have the 6 of Pentacles. And I think that that's probably a pretty good message, given what we're seeing happening here. It talks about charity and it talks about the need for balance and stuff like that, but I'm actually interpreting this as a very grounding energy in the midst of quite a lot that seems to be going on for you. It's interesting that the 3 of Swords should have come out here, because I'm also seeing it over here too. And the 3 of Swords talks about heartbreak. I don't actually think, I mean, we'll see as we go on, I don't think that this is the introduction of any new heartbreak into your experience, Leo. I think it is far more likely that it is a transcendence of heartbreak that you have experienced in the past, that you now seem to be moving beyond, right? You've grown and evolved to such a point now that it seems to me unlikely that the Three of Swords is dictating to you how, what decisions you make and the reasons why you do that. Like I said, we'll get into it for sure. I do want to pick another deck. We're going to go with the Wild Unknown over here. And just for additional information as we go on. So, like I said, it's clear that there's a process here. What's less clear... No, I think it is clear actually that this isn't you getting the result that you've been working towards, right? This isn't this yet, but it is getting closer to that. Because I feel like there's a kind of there's a wider lesson going on here. There's a lot of things that you're learning along the way as you are moving towards your goals, whatever they are, and they may be very tangible material goals, or they might be something a little more ephemeral than that. Certainly, the experience of your own reality, and how you're crafting and shaping it and whatnot. At each point, kind of coming up against your own internal obstacles. As I feel like this whole 6-month period has been for you, Leo, is coming up against your own internal obstacles and going, right, I see how I'm standing in my own way with this thing, right, I'm going to deal with this and move it to one side. There's, as frustrating as it can be, sometimes to not just set a goal and hit it immediately like that. The sense that you're on an upward trajectory is very, very strong. And I think with the addition of the Wheel of Fortune here, which kind of can skew things sideways a little bit, you see unexpected kind of coming in sometimes. What we've got a sense here of is you being able to achieve so much more than you initially visualized because of the way that you're changing during this process, if that makes sense. Now, like I said, we've got the Star card there, and it started with a vision, right? It started with an idea of what you want your future to look like, and that could be very much based in the material. It could be a new house, new job, emigration, whatever, or it can be something that's a little more difficult to define, right? It can be the feeling of wanting to be comfortable in one's own skin, right? It can be the feeling of authenticity and a kind of personal integrity being something that characterizes who you are as a human being, right? It's the thing that other people notice in you, and it's the way that you live your life. We can see it going either way. It represents Aquarius, and as I'm recording this, I think Pluto is just about to move out of Aquarius and into Capricorn. So, it's kind of lessening the effect of Aquarius on you, except that we've just had a few months of Pluto being in Aquarius. And I feel like as Pluto's regressing into Capricorn, what we're getting is an opportunity to start reordering our lives in the way that we need to get us closer to what Pluto in Aquarius, that transformation and our future needs us to do to get there in the end, right? Now, I said that I felt that the Ace of Wands mitigated the Seven of Swords somewhat, because Seven of Swords is sometimes known as the thief card. We've got something going on here that looks a little bit questionable. It looks like he's running away with some swords, but one of the things that always strikes me about this card is you have absolutely no idea as to what his motivation is. So I tend to read this card more in terms of the ways that we lie to ourselves about stuff. The way that our subconscious hides things from us, the things that we don't see. But the other meaning of this card is calculated risk. And I think that this is talking about, like I said, that visualization of how you intend to change your life, the way that you intend to lead it in future, and the calculated risk that you've taken on embracing something that is so different to what your life experience has been like so far, I guess. Like it's the total new, the Ace of Wands, right? This is a new way of living that we have not experienced before. Like I said, it could be traveling, it could be moving to a different state or a different country altogether, or it could be about the practices that you do day to day. Maybe you've been living on autopilot for a long time, and you're like, actually, I want to get really conscious about everything that I'm doing, because in the doing of that, I bring myself daily closer and closer to my goals. Because any time it's spent on autopilot is basically just maintaining the status quo. It's not improving the situation at all. So there was the dream, there was the vision, and that probably happened quite a long time ago now, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, maybe it's last year, I think, possibly. And there was such a belief in that very pure connection to your highest hope, your highest goal here, that you started taking calculated risks to move yourself towards it. Now, that in and of itself is quite an important thing, because there's a certain tenacity that is necessary for you to have a goal and then begin to work towards it. I mean, a lot of people, pipe dreams are a thing. People think about it and they say, I would like to do this thing, or I'd like to do the other, but I don't have time, or I'm not any good, or I don't have the money, all that sort of thing. And the thing is, for all of these people, these things are possible, but what it requires is a reordering of priorities, a reordering of self, or sometimes it requires a bit of discipline for something. But in almost all circumstances, it involves you needing to put yourself out of your comfort zone in some sort of way. And I feel like that's what the Seven of Swords is talking about here. In the pursuit of your highest goals, hopes, dreams, aspirations, there has, by definition, needed to be ways in which you are kind of pushing at the edges of things in a way that you might not have felt comfortable enough to do years ago. I like the Seven of Swords, High Priestess. That's very nice. It's Pisces energy. And there we have it, exactly actually as I was talking about there. We've got the High Priestess and we've got the Eight of Swords with the Six of Pentacles. Now the Six of Pentacles represents the middle ground. Oh, there you are, Leo, at the bottom of the deck. It represents the middle place where we don't upend ourselves so much that we lose all kind of structure and stability in our life, but we also do not allow ourselves to become too stagnant that we essentially stay on the fucking hamster wheel forever, right? And we've all been guilty of that at various times in our lives. And I feel like, what is represented here in these two cards, when we're talking about the vision and then the risks that you have taken, the way that you've pushed yourself out of your comfort zone, can be explained really well by these cards here, right? You're following your intuition, you're following your heart, you're following your dream, right? High Priestess is all about that kind of inner knowing, and there's been I've forgotten the word that I'm looking for there. You're choosing to rely on that feeling more than you ever have done in your life, right? Being literally guided by your own intuition. But in the doing so, in the pushing at the edges of the comfort zone and putting yourself out there in a way that you haven't done before, you are running up against those internal obstacles that I was talking about before, right? The ways in which your thinking has been very narrow, very linear. And likely it's been about your ability to be able to do anything, X, Y, Z. I remember having a conversation with someone that I really respected. It's actually a podcaster who I've been listening to for years, and then I went to go and see him. And I was chatting away to him about, we went for a drink afterwards. And we were just talking about the state of the world and whatnot. And I told him about some things that I'd done. And he looked at me and I was like, wow, you really do have the courage of your convictions. That's amazing that you would have done that. And I looked at him, kind of gone out, and I was like, what possible choice would I have had but to do that thing? You know, given that here's the information over here, I know this thing, now this requires a response. Am I going to sit here and just complain and bitch about it happening, or am I going to do something about it? Like, the answer is obvious to me. I was really, really stunned by how surprised he was by that. And so I kind of sat with it for a while, and I thought, well, actually, it's really not that surprising when you start looking at the way that other people live. And it is that constant fucking hamster wheel of just bullshit all the time. You know, you get up, you go to work, you do the same thing for 8 hours, and you come home and you're fucking exhausted. You've got no time really to do anything fun, so, you know, you just eat a load of shit, and then, you know, I don't know, you sit and watch TV, or you sit and scroll on your phone, something like that. You know, these same people would say they don't have time to take up a new hobby. They don't have time to read a book. You know, they don't have the energy to go and exercise, all these sorts of things. And that's true by the Eight of Swords definition that they're looking at everything by. That Eight of Swords kind of energy. Wow. Really high pitch ringing in my ear there. But what they're actually saying is, I don't know, I feel trapped by my life and I don't know how to create the space for this. And it does require discipline, and it does require dedication, and it does kind of, in some ways, I think it often needs something a bit more than the swords, than the mind, to start acting as the carrot in front of you. I think it does take the intuition, it does take that kind of visualization of what a life might look like for you that you really want to live. And then you have to kind of retro engineer it. You have to take the steps back and go, right, well, I need to put aside at least this many hours a week to be doing this, and maybe I need to break it down by day. And then you actually have to have the discipline and the motivation to make that happen. And the people that choose not to do that are the people that are not going to change their existence, right? So you've been walking this path for the last 6 months. And it's very grounded. I like this. It's not been too extreme one way or another. Following your intuition, bumping up against the Eight of Swords and going, oh, right, okay, right. Working your way through that. You know, what is it about my perspective? What is it about the way that I think that is stopping me from moving closer towards my goal? And bit by bit, you've been working through them over and over again. Now, when we move into your current energy, we have the Empress here. And like I said, that is either Taurus or Libra energy. I don't actually think at this point, something just made a cracking noise like it was going to break. I don't even know what it was. I don't actually think that the signs are that important on here. I feel like it's more about the energy of the Empress, which is, it's a force of nature, actually, is what it is. And that's why it always represents Taurus to me rather than Libra. You know, it's flexible, it's adaptable, but it is also creative, endlessly creative. And as you can see here, the Empress is depicted as pregnant. So we go from something that is kind of ephemeral to something that is kind of, you can see it starting to take shape, but it's not yet ready to be born. It's not yet ready to come out into the world. And this could be all sorts of things. This could be a business that you're working on. This could be a plan for relocation. This could be, some sort of hobby that you've taken up that now is taking over your life. A bit like kickboxing did with mine. You know, I remember talking to one of the blokes who was there when I first started, and he was like, "Oh, I'm in the gym 5 nights a week," and I was like, "Oh my god, are you a lunatic?" Now, fast forward 2 years later, I was in the gym every night as well. And I was kind of antsy on a Sunday because I wasn't going to the gym. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with myself? I'd take the kids to the park and just run myself ragged for a bit. We have this Three of Swords and we have the Two of Cups. I'm going to pull another couple of cards here for this, but like I said, I really do feel like this Three of Swords isn't necessarily a new one. But I also have to be mindful of the fact that Venus, which is the planet that this card represents, and that's how it comes to indicate Taurus and Libra, is going to be moving into retrograde. Now, I think it's August. I don't think it happens in July, but I think I would need to look that up. And if some of you hark back to 2022, beginning of 2022, or thereabouts. No, it was the end of 2021. To the last time that Venus was in retrograde in Capricorn, there were some unexpected breakups that occurred there. Now, to be honest, if that was something that was going to form part of your experience, I would expect this Two of Cups to be in the reverse. Instead, it's in the upright. So we've got a coming together rather than a pulling apart. But we have got that Three of Swords there. And I think this meaning that I've come to about transcendence of pain seems to be much more on point, I think, than the possibility that some of you might be ending relationships. So I feel like what we've got here actually is a deepening of the bond rather than a fracturing of the bond. And it feels like this relationship is transcending. Now, you know, every time a planet goes into retrograde, there's a lack of forward motion. We're actually kind of in a state of reflection. Often there's a bit of stasis. And I wonder if, for a lot of you Leos who find yourself within partnerships, it is about the deepening of the bond. It is about an increase in trust, right? It's almost about the level playing field that both of you are coming at stuff with. Obviously, this is not going to apply if you find yourself single, unless it's about processing previous breakups. You know, you might actually find yourself in a position where you're ready to start thinking about sharing, you know, at least some aspect of your life with each other. The interesting thing for me is that it's happening underneath this broader arc of the way that you are changing your life and what it is that you're moving towards. I want to pull another couple of cards. How about the Three of Swords, please? Oh, 2 cards. All right, we've got the Seven of Pentacles and the Son of Pentacles there. Tell me about the Two of Cups. Oof, what do we have? Oh, look at this. Oh, we got the Devil card at the bottom of the deck. I mean, whether you like it or not, Leo, relationships are really important to the success that you have moving forwards. And it doesn't have to be about the retention of a relationship that you have. It's about the way that you approach the potential for relationships. So actually, it's not about the relationship. It's actually about you, Leo. And it always is. I mean, we see that here with the Ace of Cups. It's about the way that you show up in a relationship and you know, what you bring to the table, what you need from a relationship, what you want from a relationship, more importantly. And how, in the ways that you are removing the obstacles to you going after the thing that you want, not even just achieving the thing that you want, but actually like in the act of going after the things that you want, kind of pulling them apart one by one, there's something that's correspondingly happening also with your relationships. Now, the Two of Cups for me specifically actually speaks about intimacy. It isn't necessarily about the exact one-on-one relationship. It's the extent to which you allow yourself to be intimate with other people and the extent to which other people allow themselves to be intimate with you and the space that is shared between. And this is why I'm feeling like it's kind of like an increase in bonds, but it's not for the relationship's sake. It's because it's indicating a change in you. Now, as we know, there is not one area of your life that sits in isolation away from another. So, you know, if you've got money problems on one side, it's almost certain that there's a corresponding level of issue over self-worth somewhere else, because money is just an expression of power and energy, right? So there'll be a powerlessness that is being experienced somewhere else. And I'm thinking, as I'm talking, I'm thinking about that Wheel of Fortune that we actually see in this deck here, where rather than that, you know, lovely, smooth, rounded wheel that looks like it's just made for revolving and all that, we have something altogether a bit more splintered and weird looking. But there's also that way in which every bit of the wheel is connected to the rest of it. Oh, fucking find this card now. It's going to take forever. Hang on. There it is. And you just have a look at that for a second. It's obviously a wheel, but look how messy all the connections are inside. And I feel like this is the things that we don't see. That Wheel of Fortune there. We don't see how all of the bits of our lives are connected to all the other bits of our lives. And so if we're having problems in our relationships, possibly there's some problems over here. If we're having problems with money, then there's definitely some problems over here with self-esteem and self-worth and all that kind of thing. Because everything comes back to you in the end. I'm not falling into like solipsistic thinking with that, because I do believe that there's a collective unconscious, and I do believe that other people exist and they're not just figments of my imagination, but we're responsible for what we put out there into the world. We're responsible for the kind of reality that we create, and how that needs to bend and flex around other people's realities too. We can't force ours on anyone else, and we certainly shouldn't expect anyone to force theirs onto us. They have to find a way to kind of intermesh in some ways. And we've got this Seven of Pentacles here, which speaks to something that has been in some way less than ideal. This could be a situation that you've been finding yourself in, like the very thing that you've been trying to transcend with the, affecting this vision over here. Or it could be speaking to the things that you didn't realise were kind of getting in your way, that you've had to keep processing as you've been walking through this. Like I said, the sense of you transcending the Three of Swords and also transcending the Seven of Pentacles as a result is really quite strong, because what it's needed from you is dedication and commitment to the cause. And it isn't just about the cause of furthering your ambitions, it's the cause of looking inside. And I really like this card for that, because he's staring deeply, but it's that kind of staring that people do when they're kind of looking at the inside of their own head. They're not registering what is in front of them. It's all going on in here. You've had to be very disciplined and very methodical about the way that you have worked through all of these. And I think what you've come to is an improved relationship with yourself, first and foremost, but something that seems to be feeding your ability to have better relationships in the future with all sorts of people. This isn't limited to your spouses or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or family members. It can be friends, it can be business partners, it can be whoever, because this ultimately is about the shared goals, shared views, the alignment that comes from the people that you allow yourself to be intimate with in whatever way that it relates. And this Hermit card here, card that can talk about isolation but isn't doing in your case, feels to me like it's this point of illumination that you can keep referring back to inwardly. I feel like there's a really strong understanding that whatever happens, whatever it is that you're trying to bring about for yourself, whatever changes you're trying to make, they have to start inside first. We see this repeated again and again and again. There's no point in trying to, hammer the world into a shape that suits you. You have to be the one who bends and flexes and evolves and changes. Because if you're to remain static, you're depriving yourself of the growth that you need to open up all of these possibilities for you. It feels to me like the Three of Swords is being replaced by the Ace of Cups. And the rebirth that is indicating, excuse me, the transcendence of pain. There we go, look at the Eight of Cups, we're leaving it behind. Has come down to a very disciplined and methodical way of following your intuition. It's like you might have set off with one goal over here, but you've understood the importance of the side quest in actually speeding you up to get to where your goal is. I saw a mathematical model on Instagram a month or so ago. And it was very cool. And it said, sometimes the shortest path isn't the fastest. And I was like, ooh, I'm interested. Tell me more. And it showed a diagram where you had a descent that came down like this and then went along like that. And then you had this one that went from here to here. And it was on a much shallower gradient. And there was a ball that was released that turned into two balls, obviously, as it followed these paths. And the one that went down this way, like, built up so much momentum and speed that it absolutely rocketed to the end. And this one was kind of crawling along because there wasn't enough of a gradient to give it that kind of oomph to go. And, you know, the message of that felt to me very, very clear. Like, the easiest path, the one where you haven't got your heart in your fucking mouth, the one where you're not taking calculated risks, generally is the one that will be easier. It's the one where you're not pushing at the edges of your comfort zone. You're actually like, oh, I kind of want this thing, but I only want it in the realm of what is comfortable to me. Whereas if you're ready to kind of go, well, balls to the wall with it, you can pick up speed. And even though you're taking the longer way around and it's harder or not, you get to your goal much, much faster. And I feel like this is what you're understanding. So it's like no work that you do on yourself is wasted. Not one shred of it is wasted. And in the long run, it is taking you to your fulfillment, whatever that might be, much, much faster than you could ever achieve by trying to take the short route round. And it all starts inside. So when we move to July, we've got the Eight of Pentacles, right? And that does speak about mastery, right? And more than that, it's kind of the grind, really, to be honest, Leo. Yeah, we've got a dude here who's building a dry stone wall, right? He's putting all these pentacles on top. Whichever depiction of the Eight of Pentacles you look at, right? There's somebody working really fucking hard. They're doing the same thing over and over again, right? Till they're getting better and better at it. And for you, it's quite clear that what you're doing over and over again is working on the internal stuff, because this arcing kind of energy over the top of getting you where you want to be has involved all sorts of interesting little side quests that you've been doing here, there and everywhere, but all of it is giving you more and more information, and certainly leading to this state of feeling like you are much more a master of yourself than you ever have been at any other point in history, frankly. And so it is hard work. It does represent hard work, and it represents commitment. It represents dedication, just as we do here. You know, it represents this idea that if there is something in your life that is, you know, at the very least, somewhat unsatisfactory, but at worst, yawningly predictable and awful, and you fucking hate it, you can change it. With discipline and dedication and committing yourself to it, you can change it. And in fact, it's the only way that it's going to change is by you applying yourself. Now, the number 8 specifically actually refers to power. Whether that's financial power or whatever, right? It's about power. And so the arrival of this here in July could suggest that we're sort of getting to a point where you may be able to start to see the fruits of your labours. I don't think it's coming in its entirety yet, but it seems to me like the hard work paying off is something that you can start to allow yourself to get close to, right? You know, he's building a wall here, right? And these pentacles are being put along the top. The implication is that he is almost complete. He is almost finished. He can actually see what it is that he's been building. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have another quarter of a mile, maybe, of fucking pentacles to stick on the top. But functionally, the thing that he's trying to do actually exists. This is the decoration on the top. So in the first instance, the message would be, do not take your foot off the gas here with this, Leo, right? It might be a bit of a grind, but things are starting to take shape, and what it is that you're creating is now beginning to fulfill the function that you set out to fulfill in the first place. You know, we've got this Wheel of Fortune here, and normally I talk about the Wheel of Fortune in terms of things that we must learn, right? Almost like a bit of a karmic syllabus, if you will. Right? Your soul set out to learn X number of things over this lifetime. And here's one that you can check off. You've sailed through that. It's great. On to the next. But I really do feel like the Wheel of Fortune is introducing somewhat of a Deus Ex Machina aspect to your experience during this month. By which I mean it's something that seems to come in sideways. And I don't know why I would feel like that. I mean, often when we talk about the Wheel of Fortune, we talk about fortunes improving, right? Although if you were going to be really strict about it, you know, you would have to observe the fact that the wheel revolves, and so sometimes you're on the way up and sometimes you're very much on the way down, and you have to try and learn to be stoic in the face of all of it, which is a skill that I think you've been developing, Leo, for sure. But it's not quite as clear cut as that. I think that the end result is that there is some sort of improvement in your fortunes. But this feels like it's something that's coming in sideways, something that you didn't expect, and something that causes you to be in a state of confusion about it. Now, we're probably going to get into Vimeo, get into it more in Vimeo, but I'm kind of intrigued. Tell me what's the Wheel of Fortune. Three of Swords again, Ten of Swords, and the Two of Pentacles. This is interesting, right? I don't want you to panic, because I don't think that this is something that needs to be panicked about. Oddly, we've got the Knight of Swords at the bottom of the deck. That is about the transmission of information. So this is something this is something coming to your attention. And this could be things that somebody said. This could be, you know, reports of something that somebody has done. It feels quite triggering. But notice that, you know, we've already seen the Three of Swords twice. And in both instances, I said that I felt like it was a transcendence. This here feels like a situation that should trigger the shit out of you, and actually might trigger the shit out of you. But it's here with the Ten of Swords, which does talk about humiliation, and it does talk about betrayal, and it does talk about all of those kind of things, right? But it does represent an end to the sword suit. And I feel like this is the truest expression of the transcendence of the Three of Swords right here, because we've got, you know, we've got the pain, we've got the end of the pain right there, and then we've got the Two of Pentacles. We've got the way in which you hold that very lightly. You know, the Two of Pentacles is often a kind of juggling energy, right? It's trying to find some way to hold both things up. And sometimes I think about it in terms of, you know, duties and responsibilities versus, you know, the things that you actually want to do because you enjoy doing them. It's that kind of, you know, up and down kind of thing. But this feels much more about the internal balance within you. Now, notice that we've got a butterfly here. So there's the symbol of transformation is on this card as well. We're going to get it into it in the extended, but I do wonder if prior to this and the exploration of this and everything that represents to you, this would have been a highly triggering situation. But as it's coming to you with what you've learned and the work that you've done on yourself, actually it's an opportunity to demonstrate to the universe just how much you've grown, because you seem to me to be taking this in and then being like, okay, well, you know, it is what it is. That's fine. Is it taking me away from what I want to achieve? No, I'm just going to maybe find a different way to do something if it is overtly affecting you. What about the Seven of Cups? Because I am interested now. We've got the King of Swords, Aquarius energy, and the Magician. Oh, goodness. And there's the Wheel of Fortune again at the bottom of the deck. Now, I shuffled that in before I pulled these cards out. It feels like it's a change of direction. And it feels like it's something that unexpectedly gives you power. Like, and the really amazing thing about it is it's an obvious example of the way in which your mindset has completely shifted in the last few years. I wonder if perhaps you're dealing with someone that you have known in the past, and whether this information that we were talking about refers to somebody else in the past. It's somebody who perhaps has not moved on as much as you have, certainly not evolved the way that you have. Because this feels like it's something that comes in sideways. It's got you kind of slightly confused, slightly baffled, and you're like, I don't really know what to make of this. Except that it feels like it's confirmation of what you've known about a situation. What's different here is the way that you choose to receive it, right? So rather than taking it into yourself and fully, excuse me, my stomach's rumbling, and fully experiencing the trauma of the Three of Swords and the Ten of Swords, what we've got here is a much more balanced, a much more evolved, and a very light way of dealing with it. And just being like, okay, this is fine. This new information's come in. And the way that I am choosing to respond to it is to act decisively. Right? The magician says that you have all the tools that you need to do whatever it is that you need to do. And he's very interested in manifesting. And so are you, because you're following a trajectory here for something that you want. But there are decisions that are going to need to be made in the light of the information that comes in this month that might possibly take you in a different direction. I mean, certainly it seems to me like it is ending something. Whether it is ending, whatever relationship or situation in the past has kind of brought this to light, that's possible. It's certainly ending a cycle whereby you are able to be triggered by this kind of behaviour or these kind of information anymore. But it feels like it's actually unexpectedly shoving you into a much more powerful position. And you are able to see that in a way that you were not before. I mean, the Father of Swords is often the professions, right? We've got the doctors, lawyers, judges. It could be that it relates to some sort of court case, possibly for some of you, right? Some sort of external arbiter coming in and making a decision about things. But it feels like in the first instance, it feels like it's not great. And then for some reason, it's turning out that it's actually the thing that you needed. Because this unexpected energy of the Wheel of Fortune, right? Just because we can't see it, we can't perceive it turning, it doesn't mean that it's not connected to something else really quite profound. What do we have underneath there? We have the Lover's card. Is that the Chariot under that? Oh no, Queen of Wands. The Wheel of Fortune and the Lovers, right? That's manifestation. But it is also free will. And what seems to be really strong about this whole reading is that this, designed as it feels like it is to attempt to try and restrict your free will, is actually showing you the clearest, truest way that you can express it. And that's by refusing to take on this energy right here. Like the reading that I did with you last month, something along the lines of a boss battle, because that's how it felt, right? There was something that you were facing down this month that was very, very strong, right? Whether it was your own internal demons or whether it was somebody who was actually representing some sort of, restriction or toxicity towards you. But it was the Devil card that represented that. And as we know, like the Devil card and the Lover's card are pretty much the same card, actually. They're both numbered 6. One is 6, one is 15, which reduces down to 6. The cards are structured essentially in exactly the same way. But what's missing is the free will from the Devil card. In the Lover's card, what is missing is a sense of being chained to a situation. And I feel like there's an opportunity to leave something really rather big behind this month. Whether it's something material, whether it's a relationship, whether it's some sort of, interference from other people. by the solid and consistent application of your will and, what you've effectively been training for this last 6 months, Leo. And taking yourself in a very grounded, very balanced way right the fuck away from this situation. Now, how this is playing itself out will be different for each of you. But the underlying theme is the thing that should be ringing the bells. Because I feel you're kind of like looking at yourself at this point and being like, wow, I really have gone some way. But rather than sitting and feeling victorious about it, it's like you've reclaimed your power back to the extent that this isn't a non-issue for you anymore. Like, I think it might be difficult for you to try and... I think this is why the Seven of Cups is here. Because you're trying to make sense of this situation and it doesn't make any sense. And I think it's because this here resonates with a version of you that really simply, Leo, doesn't exist anymore. And so while you're trying to work this out over here, and you're like, no, just don't get it. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. What you're doing instead, whether this depends on an external arbiter or whether this is you making the decision, is to not allow yourself to be affected by it anymore. You're not giving it the oxygen of attention. And you're going to continue about the business of manifesting what it is that you actually want. But I mean, be under no illusion, something is coming to an end this month, for sure. But not before fucking time, it feels to me. And I don't actually get any sense of you feeling victorious about it. I literally feel like it's just like, well, good riddance, like on to the next. And this is so important because we're talking a lot, about the difference between, well, understanding what happiness actually is. And for the longest time, I defined happiness as the state of being whereby there wasn't anything that was pissing me off going on. Right? And I yearned for the day where there wasn't something that wasn't pissing me off somewhere happening, because then I could actually just vibe and I could just be myself and it was great. But over the last few years, I've kind of come to see how absolutely ridiculous that position is, because how could that be happiness? Right? You can't define happiness by the absence of something, right? Happiness is embracing, right? It's about pulling things towards you. It's about the act of manifestation. It's about having a vision and moving towards it, And therein lies the difference. I mean, I think that this is something that has pissed you off right here. And it's coming to an end, which is great. But rather than deciding that that is the thing that now means you're happy, it's kind of like you're also sidelining that and going, well, okay, whatever, that's fine. I'm going to concentrate on manifesting more of the same. And so to that end, it could well be some sort of big lesson that you're learning here, Leo. But again, like, this feels like it's coming out of left field. And so, heads up on all that. It's not anything to panic about. This is the thing. And I'm reminded of what my old coach once said, really struck a chord with me. He was talking about stepping into the ring. You don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. Well, there's an occasion here for sure, Leo, but your training is here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Like, you have been training for a long time. And as this situation comes along, your training kicks in, and you're like, okay, here's what it is. And your eye is immediately back where it should be, here. I don't feel like you're getting distracted more than momentarily. And that's a really good thing. So I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. I'm going to pull this apart a little bit. I'm going to look at July specifically. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very, very welcome. Again, you could also join me at Circle if that's what you wanted to do. This looks like a really good month, Leo. Like, not without its challenges, but there's nothing here that isn't almost like perfectly attuned to what it is that you've been working on in the first place. You know, it's like doing a shitload of mock exams for months and months and months, maybe it's even years, right? Shitload of exams, mock exams from previous years, and because you did one that, you know, went back as far as like 1992 or something, you know, you sit down to do the actual exam and it's the same fucking question that you did in your mock. And so not only can you remember all of the good things that you wrote, but you also remember all the you know, the critiques that the fucking teacher gave to you about how you could make it better. It's probably a shit example, but nevertheless, you feel to me like you're sailing straight through this because you're sinking to the level of your training. Right. I'm going to go. Know that I love you all very, very much. You've got this. Take care. And I'll see you soon.